Ground ball. McLean, second. 12 in a row. The oldest team in professional baseball has its 5th ever winning streak of a dozen straight.
Our job every day is to try to kick somebody's ass. I mean, that's why we're here.
That is caught. Left center. Reds win.
And this ball is launched. High and very deep to right, long gone. It's second of the night. Ellie De La Cruz.
Short lead for Pena. Larkin drills it. Do you believe this? It's going to be gone. Back to back. Walk-off home runs. How about this? He's back. He's back. He's back.
And a swing and a drive. Deep left field. This one belongs to the Reds. Swung on and hit deep to left field. That ball is going to be gone. Home run. And the Reds put it tied to 4.
Goes to second one. Around to first. Got a double play. And the Reds sweep the Cubs. Breaking ball. Hit high. Hit deep. Way back there. And gone. Into the second deck and left. Christian Encarnacion Strand walks it off.
Archer does it in his major league debut. He gets the final 3 outs, and the Reds get an extra inning win. A thriller 5-4.
Swung on. Fly ball. Hit the deep right field. That ball is going to be gone. A grand slam home run by Mike Cameron.
2 outs, 2 on. Reds down by 1. Larkin down the line. It's a winner. It's a winner. Here comes Tucker. Here comes Steins. Larkin's won the game. Barry Larkin gets mobbed. Look at this scene. It's synergy.
The stretch, the pause and the pitch. And a line drive, base hit left center field. A single for Aaron Boone. And this one belongs to the Reds. The Reds have won 8 in a row.
Kobayashi with a long look turns it loose, and Dunn hits it to deep right. It's all over. And this one belongs to the Reds. The Reds have won their 5th game in a row. They've defeated the Cleveland Indians on an Adam Dunn 3-run home run, 4-2. Again on the corners at first and third. 2 on, nobody out. Here's Roy Trin pitching, no bunt. Ground ball by the third baseman into left field. Jay Bruce rounds third. This one belongs to the Reds.
That's it pretty good. Guess what? He doesn't need speed. That's gone. He's the king of the Queen City tonight.
With 1 out here in the 11th inning, you sure got to go now.
1 out, pull down the left field line. That ball is going to get the winning run in. Here comes Jay Bruce rounding third, heading toward the plate. And this one belongs to the Reds.
Huge situation for Votto. Why you pay him the big bucks to deliver the goods with 2 outs in the 9th inning? Can he do it? In the gap, right center field, and Votto delivers the goods.
Hit deep center field. Hank Hill going back at the warning track. Oh, he gets one. It's gone. Joey Votto is delivered.
Happy Tuesday, Reds fans and Chatterbox listeners. My name's Alex. He is Sam. And as of tonight, July 1st, the Reds have a 13.9% chance to make the playoffs. Sam, welcome back. We missed you last night, but a lot was missed last night. And but we'll talk about that in a minute. Let's talk roster moves. Big news coming in. They're going to shake up the bullpen. The Reds, it seemed last night had a little depth issue, if you will, with, obviously bad start with Burns there. We'll get into that, but we have a couple guys on their way up to the big club. Sam Mole returns. Sam Ben Shooter.
We'll go with Ben Schroeder.
Ben Schroeder.
Yeah.
And another addition, not on the big league club yet, but former Red Buck Farmer was signed to a minor league deal, his 3rd club of the year, and I'm sure he'll be up here within a week or so. Lastly, on the transactions, Noel V. Marte was assigned to Louisville, and per Charlie Goldsmith, it looks like he might only be there 2 games, so is it possible we see him in Philadelphia with, of course, another roster move? But Sam, any thoughts on that? That's just kind of cleaning up the news for us.
Yeah, starting off with the bullpen, 2 Sams, which I love. We got 3 Sams involved in the show tonight, but yeah, that Burns outing it took a toll on the bullpen last night, and I think this move might be kind of corresponding to that a little bit. You had Suter go, you had Phillips go, and Phillips gets called down today. But yeah, Ben Schroeder, he's going to be a guy who he can give you multiple innings out of the bullpen, which I think the Reds can use after that long bullpen game last night. But going to Mole, he struggled a lot this year. Only, I think, 3 outings with the big league club before that shoulder injury there in April. But, yeah, he struggled in AAA as well. But his last couple outings in AAA, he's limited walks and no runs, I believe, in his last 5. So a lefty arm will be huge for this Reds bullpen. I like kind of what I saw from La Sorsa last night, but I think he's going to be a guy you can expect to come up and down with those options. But, yeah, Mole's back up. That Joe Boyle trade a couple years ago from that. But, yeah, just another lefty in the bullpen who has had big league success. So a little bit of excitement there, but who knows?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's one thing we talked about last night, and I know Nick's been hammering on the post-game show. The Reds need bullpen help. We have a lot of bullpen help. And more than likely, at least 2 guys to, fill in. And there's a lot of room that's available. I mean, these guys, they're not, we don't have 6 Aroldis Chapmans or 6 Emilio Pagans down there. So there's some that could be on the chopping block, and there's just rotating. So I'm looking for a little more impact there, but I'm sure we'll get there. It's just now July 1st. We don't really see many trades. Well, let's talk about last night. I'm going to steal it from a buddy of mine and someone who I text during the games. If you were here at Crochet, probably would have thought a winner. But the first inning doomed us on last night.
Yeah, you said it best. On paper, if you're facing Crochet, you probably expect to drop that one. You hate to. It's a little bit of a loser mentality. You hate to have that, but it's hard to disagree with it. Burns struggling to get out of the first definitely hurt, but the offense kind of kept us in there longer than I expected. I was watching that game a lot longer than I would have thought after the first. Hayes, huge night, but yeah, it's a tough game to drop. You hate to drop any games, but Crochet's, top 3 pitcher in the AL probably. So you hate to see it. Also a lefty who the Reds have struggled against, but yeah, the offense, 6 runs, you'd take that at the start of the game, but 13 given up from this pitching staff. But you got 2 more games. If you can steal those 2, get a series win heading into this Philadelphia series, that'd be huge. We'll get into it maybe a little bit later, but the schedule after Philly, you've got 2 of the worst teams in the majors coming up in Colorado and Miami. So if you can win this series, maybe win the next, you're going to be looking really good in terms of standings. But yeah, tough pitching day last night. We're going to hope for a better outing out of Singer tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. I think tonight's not, I don't say a must win, but a must win to get like 3-3 on the road trip.
Yeah.
Philadelphia's, I think, not necessarily playing their best baseball either. So maybe we could squeak a couple wins out of there. But Boston's been down. They're kind of down the dubs. Hopefully last night didn't wake them up. I think you're right. If you can go on this road trip, go 3-3. To me, every road trip, I'm looking to go 500. Obviously, there's ones if you're going to Colorado and, not Miami. I think Miami's not a bad team by any means. The Reds, lost 2 or 3 down there already earlier this year. But if you're playing a couple, less than stellar teams, maybe you try to get a game or 2 or 500. But for this road trip, Boston and then Philly, that's a pretty rough one. So I like to look at 500. Obviously last night I think Nick and Trace touched on it, and it's been a blaze online today. I think Burns was doing something, tipping his pitches with his arm, with his leg, just speeding up, maybe going a little too fast. Sometimes they were on it. They do it, found it out pretty quick. And, you have the king of trash cans, Alex Cora, in the Boston's dugout. So I forget the X account when I was looking up for the show. They mentioned that maybe Burns was doing the same thing last start against the Yankees as well. So it's interesting that the Yankees didn't pick up on it right away. Interested to see what they, get back in the lab, as you say, and for next start with Burns.
Yeah,
which I would imagine is probably against. I guess would that be against Philadelphia?
Might be the last game against Philadelphia.
It would be Sunday. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, if it is tipping pitches, you'd hope that's an easy fix. It really doesn't have anything. He was leaving a lot of his pitches over the middle of a plate as well, and bad defense too. Kind of all three of those mixed together will lead you to not get out of the first. That play by McClain, who knows if he turns it with Roman Anthony running down to first, but you would have loved to get at least one. And then another play later on in the game, Burns was out of the game by then, but that drop ball by Steer, it was just a lot of sloppy defense last night.
Yeah.
And if the Red Sox are hitting you that hard, you got to have the defense behind, and it was just a really sloppy game overall. Defense did the pitching no favors, but back to tipping his pitches, yeah, if it's just that, you'd hope that's an easy tweak. Who knows if the Red Sox really picked up on that or not, but it's definitely an easy thing to go to because they were hitting the laces off the ball.
Mm-hmm. Oh, they were absolutely just killing it. Yeah. And what's interesting, and kind of go into tonight and just kind of wrap up last night. I've been to Fenway. It was a fantastic time. We went it was about 20 years ago. It was after their World Series, 2005. Yeah. So I'm sure a lot's changed, but if you ever get the chance there to go over, walk around the whole building, they've got a huge complex there, and it's just fantastic. But even just watching a game, it brings me back to the early 2000s with the Red Sox Yankees rivalry in the playoffs. I love the by the way, TJ Friedel fallen last night. I about had a heart attack on my couch, but I love the triangle. I love the green monster, but it doesn't play. You think, it kind of looks small, and as it's tucked into those streets. You would think it would play like a Great American Ballpark, and it really doesn't. It's not necessarily a hitter's park or known as a hitter's park. Obviously, it's got the pesky pole and the weird stuff, but that make it a little easier to get a ball out. But that Abreu kid was just annihilating the ball. And even a couple, and kind of talk about some players who really had a great June. And start with Matt McClain. Matt McClain hit 2 balls just off the green monster, and they were there like right now. Not on my list here, but Reese Hines had that foul ball like towards the light tower. I thought that was
looks like that went like 500 feet behind him.
Like, oh my gosh. And I think that could have tied it or gotten the Reds a lot closer. But let's talk about these 3 guys. And really, to me, before we get into the pitching matchup, these 3 guys are really the heart and soul of the Reds. The Reds aren't going to go anywhere. This is what this season was built around these 3 guys. That's Ellie, McClain, and Steer. They all have their pluses and minuses. They all have their warts, and the 2, especially McClain and Steer, are off to horrendous starts for injuries related. But let me just read a couple stats here, and I don't have a couple mixed stats here, but McClain in June wrapped up the month batting .287, which to me for him is probably above average.
Yeah.
Ended up with a 123 WRC plus. So for those who don't know, that's basically saying that he's 23% better than the rest of the league. Ellie batted .344, had 7 homers, and Steer batted .302 with 5 homers.
And got himself the player of the week in the National League. So
yeah, absolutely. And 3 of those homers were Friday. Granted, what happened. But, for his average to be that high, those 3 guys have had a heck of Junes, and we need them to continue to go into July. Any thoughts on those 3 guys, Sam?
Yeah, I'm getting Steer's stats pulled up here, but I believe he's batting around 250 with like a 710 OPS, which after his start, that's unbelievable to be up at these numbers by July 1st, because he was dreadful to start the year. A lot of us were surprised when he started the year with the big league club because of that that injury to start and not really any spring training, but he's really turned it on. He got himself National League Player of the Week, similar to Will Benson earlier in June, I believe. But yeah, Steer's been awesome. You said McLean too, 287. After his start too, he got off to a fairly good start, but then a little bit of an injury, and then after that he just hit rock bottom. So
Yeah.
He's back up to 2-spot, seems for good now. I know that was a little topic of discussion a couple weeks ago, but you can pencil him in there every day at 2 now, which I think is huge for this roster. There was really some confusion as to who would bat there. You had Lux a little bit, who I don't hate up there, but you'd like to see one of these franchise, pieces up there in 2 hitting in front of Ellie. But yeah, Steer and McLean, if they stay kind of above average of where we think they should be, or at least right at it, this is a lot better offense, especially with Hayes back and Marte coming back too. But yeah, you love to see these young pieces swinging the bat well. And Ellie, I think all of us, or at least most of us, expect him to be doing what he's doing. There's a little bit of that Facebook side of the fan base who doesn't like him as much, but he's provided all season. He's an all-star for a reason. He will be an all-star for a reason.
Yep.
Should be starting. But yeah, those 3, they really are kind of the faces of this offense.
Yeah. And that's something, and I know we saw it online. What are the Reds going to do? What are the Reds going to do? And I think it was the friend of the show or friend of Chatterbox, Clay Snowden, the Reds version of Clay. He had posted on X a few weeks ago, like, I don't know what the Reds are going to do. And I just replied, I said, you hope that Steer and McLean come around. I think that's what the front office's hope is. And honestly, I don't know if they have any other options. So good to see that they're kind of coming around. Let's talk about tonight. Let's talk about the pitching matchup. We got Brady Singer on for the Reds, and we have a young buck for the Red Sox. As the name of Fitz.
Richard Fitz.
Richard Fitz, the number 11 prospect for the Red Sox. And he's 0-3 this year with a 4.68 ERA. So sounds like a guy that in the past the Reds have made look like Cy Young.
Yeah, we mentioned earlier how on paper last night looked a little rough facing Garrett Crochet, and on paper tonight it definitely looks better. You got Richard Fitz, who he's been up and down kind of all year for them. They've had a little bit of an injury bug in their rotation. Tanner Houck has been out, so they got Fitz up here tonight. This is his second time, I think, through the rotation, but yeah, he's been up and down all year. He had an outing earlier in June where he went 1 inning, 5 earned runs, a little bit kind of like Chase Burns last night, but his last time out, 4 innings pitched, 2 earned. You mentioned how he's 11th prospect in their organization, so maybe a high upside guy, but he hasn't really shown much at the big league level now. Hasn't gone deeper than 6, I believe, in a game. But yeah, young guy, 25 years old, right-handed pitcher, so you'd hope that'll fare well against the Reds. But he's one of those guys who are up and down. Think maybe like a Carson Spires for the Reds. Not sure if that's a fair comparison based off their kind of skills, but just one of those guys who's kind of up and down for them. The injury bug may lead him to be up longer than they might want, but yeah, a young guy who's got a good arm, but a little bit inconsistent.
Yeah, so hopefully the Reds can take advantage of him tonight. Yeah. Cross our fingers. I think tonight, it'd be great. Brady Singer goes 6 solid. As far as I understand, maybe I should have looked this up. I don't think any of our big time relievers were used last night.
Yeah, not really.
So if he can get 6, bridge us to Santian, Pagan, I feel really good about tonight. And the Reds have been, the Reds still haven't been swept. The only team that hasn't been swept yet this year.
Yeah.
Which is just a fantastic stat. I mean, it really is. And, I think that's the magic of Francona. I really do. And I think, and not to say like, hey, David Bell this, David Bell that. I'm not really comparing the two. I just think Francona is in a class of his own when it comes to keeping the morale high and just moving on in the next day. That comes from his mentality and starts at the top. So I feel good about tonight. I feel good about Singer, pitching in. If Singer can give you 5-6 innings, that's all we need him for.
Yeah. And last time out against the Yankees, he went 5, but he was kind of unlike himself. He had 9 strikeouts, which is great, but he had 3 walks as well. So he had a high pitch count, a lot of strikeouts, a lot of walks. He gave up 4 earned against that good Yankees lineup, but I'd like to see him get back to his kind of normal self where he's efficient, he's not walking guys, and he's also, you love for the strikeouts to be there, but I think he's at his best when he's throwing strikes and he sprinkles in those 8-pitch innings that can allow him to go deeper into the games instead of these high strikeout numbers and high walks. Because I would take 2 strikeouts and no walks over 9 Ks and 3. Because that last time out, he had over 100 pitches through 5 innings. So if he can keep that pitch count low against this inconsistent Red Sox lineup, they've been more down for the year, but as they showed last night, they can go out there and score 13 on you. So if Singer can, you said it best, go deep into the game. Reds have their best bullpen arms rested, so should fare well on that front. But who knows? Red Sox gave out and scored 13 on one of the best prospects in baseball. So baseball's
absolutely.
Predict.
Let's talk about the lineup. So when we first started this show, Sam, it was like we would dissect who's batting where, why. Oh, Tito's crazy. Obviously, this is the lineup that we've been seeing. When we make these little graphics, it's like really just changing a couple names depending on if there's a lefty throwing, and maybe a position here too. But we got Friedel, McLean, Ellie, Austin, Hayes, who, to my knowledge, has exclusively DH since he's came back from the IL.
Yeah, he has.
Gavin Lux in left, Spencer Steer at first base, Trevino at catcher. Which, Sam, do me a favor real quick. Can you look up who caught Burns' debut just while I'm reading off these other two?
Yeah.
Will Benson and right, with Fraley on the IL, and then CES playing third base, rounding out the lineup. So, again, we see CES playing third. I mean, he's played fine. I don't think it's egregiously bad or he wouldn't be playing there. They'll make these types of things, and, it's just, if he's that bad, they'll move him. So, and we know how much Francona loves Espinal. Did you find out who
Stevenson.
caught? Oh, Stevenson did catch Burns. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. So I'm interested to see if CES goes down. I think CES or Espinal for Marte possibly this week. I'm interested to see what happens there. But who do you think is the guy that's going to be the offensive star tonight?
Yeah, I like how you mentioned Hayes kind of being that stable DH. He had a great game last night, and I expect to ride the hot bat. I think him just focusing on hitting is going to be huge for him. He's had to deal with a lot of injuries this year, a lot of stuff that he would like not to. That's kind of been that was kind of why the Reds were able to sign him for so cheap, because he's kind of an injury-ridden guy who's shown a lot of talent, all-star player, but I really wanted him to kind of be this DH that you can pencil in every day, because the past, we always mention we never have that DH who you just throw in there every time, the power hitting DH. And Hayes is more than just a power hitter too. He's batting over 300, I believe. So I expect him to continue to rake. And I'm just happy that we finally have someone you can hit behind Ellie and just pencil in there every day, whether it's righty or lefty, because he's shown he can dominate lefties and be just as good versus righties. So I love what I've seen out of Hayes, and I think he's going to have another great night tonight.
Yeah, I would love to see it against a right-hander for with Hayes. He's not, you don't have the crazy splits like maybe Steer does or Benson against lefties. But what I'm rooting for, I mentioned earlier that I was fortunate enough to go to Fenway Park, and one day I'll be back there shortly. Thought about going to this series, when we were planning the old Wallace family vacation, but decided against it. one of the things they do, they take you on a tour when you're on the tour of the ballpark. Out in right field is a red chair. All the seats in Fenway are green. If listeners don't know, the one is from Ted Williams, the farthest ball hit. Offhand, I don't have the distance, but I'd love to see Ellie De La Cruz just hit one right above it. You know what I'm saying? Against one of this guy, Richard Fitz. Doesn't sound like a Major League Baseball player. Sounds like a guy who should be an accountant somewhere. I'd love to see Ellie just, deposit one in deep right field.
You say he can go deep to that red chair. I expect Gavin Lux to go 302 to the pesky pole. So you'll have a 500-foot bomb. And then you can have, that's how unique Fenway is. You can have all these different corners where it's 420 feet and then it goes down to near 300. So
I think Friedel is a perfect match for those.
Just a little bloop.
And I really thought talking about home runs, I really thought Rhys Hines was going to hit a just moonshot over the green monster last night, but
he had a couple chances to where
he did.
There was ducks on the pond, and it was maybe a game tying home run or cut us to one, but ended up in a couple strikeouts, which is kind of what Rhys Hines is known for. But he gives you that power too, that you hope he can tie a game like last night.
So last night, Sam, Andrew and I talked about a couple names that we might be interested in on the trade deadline. That it's July, it's trade month. Any guy who you're like, hey, the Reds maybe would be a good fit for the Reds, and maybe someone off the radar that the Reds may be interested. Last night I mentioned he's on the injured list, but mentioned Paul Sewald of the Guardians. A old reliever for the Mariners and Diamondbacks. And I also thought, hey, what about a Michael Lorenzen reunion?
If I had to say someone, it'd definitely be on the offensive side, just because I'd love to see more consistency. Obviously, Taylor Ward is the guy everyone would love to have on the Angels right now, but they're in a little bit of a wild card hunt. They're only a couple games back of that third spot, and that obviously be a little bit of a steeper price. You're going to have to give up something that you might not want to see go, but Chapman, Aroldis Chapman, a former Red, a lot of people would like him too. And I know we were talking a little bit earlier, and Justin Wilson, another lefty arm who is on the Red Sox this year. So depending on what Mole does, if he can give you some consistency out of the bullpen and be kind of that lefty arm you're looking for, but seeing Chapman back wearing the Reds uniform would be pretty cool, kind of rounding out his career.
Yeah, I think it would be, fairy tale ending, if you will. I know he might have another year or two left. I just don't see it happening. I think that they would have brought him back as a free agent. I don't think Bob Castellini wants him on the team. I'm not sure if you heard last night. There were some rumors back when they dealt him. I think that was 2016, that
right around then,
or the winter of 2015, that it was a mandate to remove him off the roster as soon as possible. So, and if they would have just waited, they could have traded him to the Cubs for Gleyber Torres, but that's neither here or there. So I just don't see it. I think he's a future Hall of Famer personally. You look at just other closers, I think he matches pretty close. He's certainly not a name as Mariano Rivera, but I think he's just as good as Billy Wagner to me. So just cool to have another guy with a Reds hat in the Hall of Fame. But at this point, if he does make Cooperstown, I'm sure he'll have a Yankees cap on. Or one of those weird side poses with no cap. But with the wild card, the expanded wild card, it just made the trade deadline less fun because so many teams are still in it, which as a fan, I think it's great. Just a few weeks ago, you would have said, well, season's over. It was over in, May, because the Cubs had a huge lead. They were up, 5 or 6 games, maybe even 8 at one point with the Reds.
Yeah.
And then the wild card with the Padres, the Giants, I guess the Cardinals as well, and the Brewers. It was just not an option. The Mets, Phillies. So it's good on one hand.
Yeah.
But I really wish they would just push the deadline back to mid-August so that you could have a little more action. I think, and I know you're a big Pacer fan.
Yeah.
The summer is huge for the NBA because of just free agency, the trades, the free agency. I'd love to see that happen more in MLB, especially during the season. Make this time period a lot more fun and a lot more newsworthy for the league.
Yeah, and the expanded wild card, it keeps a lot more teams in it, but also I think in the long term it can kind of hurt a lot of teams because you might think you're in it when in reality you're really far away from being a real contender, and you could have departed from these pieces that aren't in your long term, but you could have gotten something out of it. So a lot of these teams like the Angels with a guy like Ward, I think keeping him around might be it might hurt them in the long term because who knows how close they are to actually being a playoff team. But this wild card, the standings show that they're only 2.5 or 3 games back from a playoff spot. So it might keep teams hesitant from being sellers, and it might lead to more buyers too, which makes the everyone else kind of gets affected by that too. So it makes it a little bit tougher for a team like the Reds to acquire some good pieces for either side, pitching or
and you remember a couple years ago, 2023.
Yeah,
they acquired some of those guys from the waiver claims. I think it was Renfroe, Harrison Bader.
Yeah,
they put a claim in for Giolito, but
yes,
he sucked anyway. But the Guardians claimed him as one spot before.
Yeah,
the waiver deadline was awesome back in the day before they removed it. I wish they still had it because I think there's 2 examples, and we'll wrap up here. One example that comes to mind was the Twins a couple years ago. Similar probably spot as the Reds this year is, hey, how far do we want to go? I think they traded for, if my memory serves me right, Jaime Garcia used to pitch for the Cardinals. They traded, they acquired him. I'm not sure if they got him from the Cardinals or what have you, but then they dealt him to the Yankees during the same deadline. I'm not sure if that was before the deadline or post deadline. But certainly in the same season they dealt him. But that waiver deadline gives you some time. Also, one of the most famous is Justin Verlander when the Tigers traded him to the Astros. That was almost like September or August 30th or something, way late in the year.
Yeah,
I would like to see them bring it back. At minimum, they need to move the trade deadline back to mid-August. So any final thoughts from you, Sam, as we wrap up tonight?
Yeah, we said it earlier. Expect some weird things tonight. Maybe Ellie hitting one to that red chair, Friedel blooping one to the pesky pole. But I kind of expect Singer to bounce back after that last start. Be kind of more of the pitcher we think he is. Give us 6 strong, 1 earned, kind of an outing like that, and then facing Richard Fitz. I expect this offense to have a big game. Hayes is hot. Ellie's been awesome. Steer, McLean, they've all been rolling. And then you get a guy like Benson back in the lineup. So I expect a W tonight, creep even closer to that wild card spot, hope for a couple losses to go our way, not to scoreboard watch in July, but, I just hope the Reds get closer and closer.
Hey, you know what? To me, it's just stacking wins. And as we leave out, it's all about getting, on average, 15 wins a month. They can keep hitting that 15 wins a month or right there. We got something, guys. We got something. 15 wins a month is 90 wins. That gets you into the playoffs. The Reds are right there, and a team like the Giants, like the Padres, like the Brewers, who I hate, the Cardinals. Some of these teams are going to fall. It's the question is, are the Reds going to fall? Or are they going to be up for the challenge? So, Sam, how about you go ahead and sign us off? And everyone, hope we have a better night tonight than we did last night.
Yep. Everyone, go ahead and like the stream for us. As always, tune into the post-game show with Nick and Trace. But before you do that, we're going to watch the Reds. We're going to watch a Reds win, a Brady Singer gem, and this offense is going to explode. So, Alex, thanks for hopping on, and everyone, thanks for tuning in. Make sure to like the stream, and go Reds.
Go Reds.